Well, you're not imagining it. There has been a spike in the number of deaths on our roads this holiday season. Alarmingly, many of the fatal crashes were caused by people who were high on drugs. So what's being done to protect you and your family from these deadly drivers?
We need to say enough is enough.
A car is a lethal weapon.
We need people to start realising these are human lives.
High and behind the wheel.
Just got to drive very defensively.
Drivers taking the lives of others into their own hands.
And that's terrifying because we have to share the road with them.
And tearing families apart in the blink of an eye.
It's not safe at all.
Alarmingly, these are all too familiar scenes on our roads, and innocent drivers are fed up.
It me off because they're putting my life and my family's life at risk.
Right now, there are more than 19 million registered drivers in Australia. While our cars and roads are safer than they've ever been, it's not stopping the number of drivers losing their lives. While speeding, texting and drinking are among the highest causes of fatalities, police say the use of drugs on our roads is rising. And it's not just illegal ones.
The amount of deaths from crashes where people are under the influence of a drug has now reached and sometimes exceeded the amount of people that die in crashes from alcohol.
2 mangled cars engulfed in flames.
On Boxing Day, the 4 Colts were on their way home to Sydney when they were struck head-on near Ulladulla on the New South Wales coast, killing 69-year-old Lars and his wife Vivian. Their daughters, Annabelle and Jessica, were pulled from the wreckage moments before their car burst into flames. While Annabelle later died in hospital, her sister Jessica remains on life support.
I've been in the cops for 38 years and look, the last 2 weeks have probably been some of the hardest 2 weeks that I've had. And to see these innocent lives taken, it's been quite difficult.
Witnesses say they saw a white Toyota Prado cross the line of the road twice before hitting the Folcolt's car. The man behind the wheel was 50-year-old Craig Whittle, who was also killed in the crash. A P-plater who only recently got his licence back. It's understood that Whittle had been driving home from a nearby methadone clinic.
How can anyone with 60 driving offences, how can anyone earn their stripes back to get back on the road? How can that happen?
2GB radio host Chris Smith says he's appalled by what's happening on our roads. It's understood that Whittle not only had a long criminal history, but had also been jailed for driving while disqualified.
We wouldn't allow someone who'd had weapons offences to get a gun licence again or get access to something which would endanger the community. But somehow we allow this person to get his licence again, in spite of having such a long record of offences.
Shadow Transport Minister Anthony Albanese is now leading calls for an urgent meeting of the Transport and Infrastructure Ministerial Council.
What we need is the decision makers around the table, the people who can make decisions about technology and design, about road rules, about an education campaign.
Professor Raphael Gibietta is from the University of New South Wales. He believes that what we need now is less talk and more action.
We want to move forward and reduce the fatalities. It's 100 lives every year more. Think about it. That's 100 families that are completely destroyed because of the fatality.
In New South Wales alone this holiday season, 28 people died on our roads.
So we're ramping up our random drug testing and we're doing that across Australia.
New South Wales Police Assistant Commissioner Michael Corboy.
And we do prosecute people for driving under the influence of a whole range of prescription drugs and other drugs that are not necessarily illegal, but you can be under the influence if you have too many.
Alarmingly, there have been a number of holiday road deaths where police are alleging the use of drugs may have played a role. In Queensland, Karen Tritton and her daughter Michaela were killed on the way to lunch on Christmas Day.
The scene itself was horrific.
Karen and Michaela were travelling with 2 other family members in Brisbane's east when they collided head-on with another car being driven by Michael Veneris. In the BMW he was driving, police allegedly found a drug pipe.
Emergency responders were faced with a horrendous incident and it was quite traumatising.
The horrific scene, something that first responders say will be etched in their minds forever.
As a wife and a parent away from being a police officer, it was very, very difficult to deal with when we were doing CPR on the actual deceased.
When the 46-year-old later tried to discharge himself from hospital after waking, he allegedly had no recollection of what had happened.
What we've got to do is get tougher on those that are caught with drugs in their system. And the first thing we've got to do is resource the police so that every random breath test station is also a drug test station.
So how do we stop the carnage? Road safety experts are now calling for more drug testing vans on our roads and tougher laws.
So I've heard of cases where people have lost their licence as a result of drink driving and then they're allowed back on the road again, and then it's happened multiple times. I think there should be a policy introduced. 3 strikes, you're out. That's it. You can't drive anymore.
From April 30, first-time offenders picked up for drugs by police in Victoria will lose their licence for 6 months, double the current penalty.
It's really important that when you're driving a car, that you have your full faculties, that you haven't numbed your brain with alcohol or drugs.
Of course, it's not just drugs playing a role in our road toll.
Put it in gear. She's rolling. Put it in gear.
Yeah, Mum, gear.
Put it in gear. Ma'am, put it. Yeah.
This woman thought she'd managed to get home undetected, but there was no escaping police, even in her own driveway.
You had any alcohol at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, when was your last drink?
Yeah, probably 12 hours ago.
After taking a deep breath, though, she blows, allegedly close to 6 times over the limit. With her kids in the car, she tells police that she was just popping out for a bite.
Why am I'm getting a pizza.
Then there's those who choose to speed. Late yesterday, this driver was picked up by police after ploughing through an intersection in Brisbane's Sunnybank. In the past year, 1,223 people have died on our roads. New South Wales recorded the highest number with 392. Victoria followed with 255. In Queensland, there were 248 fatalities. Western Australia recorded 154, while South Australia had 101.
Clearly, what is being rolled out at the moment isn't working.
In the past few years, we've grown used to seeing graphic ads on our screens reminding us of the dangers of speeding, texting, drinking and taking drugs.
The wife who cried. The son who lost a dad.
While they may have worked in the beginning, some believe a new approach is needed.
We've become desensitised to it, and people are willing to take the chance, drugs in their system, grog in their system, and drive cars.
While the experts, police and politicians work to address the issue, those families affected are left to pick up the pieces.
You just can't help grieving for the families and looking at the loss of life, and a lot of this just doesn't have to happen.
Meanwhile, the Fourcolt family tonight remain by Jessica's side, clinging to hope, but all too aware of the heartbreaking news they will have to share if she wakes.
It's just so sad, and it's absolutely horrendous for the emergency workers involved. They deserve our thanks for the work they do, particularly at this time of year.